Well, it's January of the new year, the new growing season, and while your garden may not look this lush right now in your climate, it doesn't mean it's not time to start planning what you're gonna grow this season. So what we thought we'd do is get together some of our favorite gardeners and share what we're all excited to grow this season. Not a year or two ago, right where I'm standing, I grew a plant that was considered a giant variety, and pretty much it was the size of a manhole. And what I'm talking about, surprisingly, is a sunflower. The variety I'm talking about, you can't buy. I'm sorry to say it. I got it from a friend in West Virginia who holds a ton of state records for giant vegetables and flowers. Maybe one day it'll be available, but these are some varieties I'm personally excited about in the sunflower realm this year. Some I've tried, some are going to be new to me. First is going to be Rouge Royale. To me, I like growing the non-classic colors. So Rouge Royale is a fantastic red branching sunflower that adds really an interesting aesthetic to the garden. Now, if you want to get closer to the classic yellow sunflower, Chocolat would be the pick. It's got yellow tips, so a little bit of taste of that yellow. But what's really nice about it is it'll grow 6 inches in size, but if you space them close together, you can get 3 inches. And then both of these varieties, Rouge and Chocolat, you can use as cut flowers. This one's the real showstopper for me, probably the one I'm the most excited about. Goldie Honey Bear, funny name. It's a fully doubled flower, meaning that as it matures, you're gonna get the petals developing on the inside where the seeds would normally be very much the star of the show. And it's huge. So one of these, probably 7-8 inches across, you can cut it, put it in a vase, it'll fill up an entire vase. It makes a statement on the counter or in the garden.
Every new year in the garden gives us a chance to grow something a little bit different, a little bit new, or just change the way that we're growing. And in general, I have avoided things that spread and vine and creep through the garden because I don't have that many wide walkways to allow things like these nasturtiums to take over an entire space. Now, right beneath me is an Atlantic giant pumpkin, which is pretty cool, but this year I want to grow a pumpkin that I could actually enjoy and eat, but I still want one that's a little bit unique, which is why I'm growing the Cinderella pumpkin. Just to be clear, this Atlantic giant pumpkin is of course edible. You could bake it if you had an oven big enough, but the Cinderella pumpkin is better for eating. It is a pumpkin that is prized for being delicious. It's a little bit sweet, it's fragrant. It's still a pretty good size, but it's nowhere near something like this. And yes, it is named after the carriage in Cinderella where the pumpkin transformed. It's the exact same shape and style of pumpkin. The other cool thing about this one is it's heat and humidity tolerant. So not only is it going to taste delicious, it should be able to handle a wide variety of climates, and it'll look really cool once it's hanging out in the garden.
I built these front beds to my pollinator garden so that this area would explode with color during most of the growing season. To have an area explode in color, you need more than just a couple plants. And you've probably noticed, like I have, that the cost of annuals at the garden center are skyrocketing. So this year, I'm going to start my annuals from seed, like the Petunia Garden Party blend. By starting from seed, I can fill this area with dozens of plants for a fraction of the cost that I would pay a nursery or a garden center. Petunias are a great plant to start indoors at the beginning of the year. You can expect that from the time you start the seeds until the plant is big enough to put in your garden, it's going to take about 3 months. And if you want to wait until the flowers appear to put them outside, it's going to take longer than that. Now, there are a few challenges. The botanical interests is actually packaged with the seeds coated with a fine layer of clay. Because the seeds are so small, this makes it easier to see where the seeds are when you're sowing. And the seeds benefit from warm temperatures. So get a heat mat. Get the temperature to 70 to 85 degrees Fahrenheit to ensure you have the best germination. It's going to take 2 to 4 weeks to start seeing some of those little plants, but the extra effort is worth it. You can grow so many flowering plants for a fraction of the cost of what you'd spend at a garden center buying the individual plants.
Here in Central Florida, January is a gorgeous month. It might be my favorite month. Average daytime temperatures are in the 60s to 70s, and there's only an occasional threat of frost that we need to be mindful of until our average last frost date, which is in mid to late February. But I've lived in Florida long enough to know that the biggest threat to my annual vegetable patch is not the occasional threat of cold, but actually the punishing heat of late spring. This is why I'm getting my tomatoes planted right now, to ensure that my spring yields aren't cut short by a hot spring, which is pretty much guaranteed. I'm gonna be starting my seeds in a little makeshift greenhouse that I have. Protection is only necessary when the temperatures dip below the 50s, because that's a little risky when we're talking about tiny tomato seedlings. The seedlings are gonna stay in those trays until they have their true leaves and they're ready to step up into 2-inch pots. Once they're nicely rooted into their 2-inch pots, looking bushy and lush, about the last week of February, first week of March, I'm going to transplant them in the garden. This is going to give them a few months of excellent tomato production before that really intense heat in spring takes them out. So it may feel really crazy to tear open a tomato packet in the month of January, but in Central Florida, it's essential. Don't start them too early in the month of January. You may run into leggy seedlings before they're ready to go out. I always go from mid to late January for starting my tomatoes. And you can follow the same directions for your peppers, tomatillos, and eggplants as well.
Look at that. Weather's already shifted on us. You know, I feel like growing out here in North Texas, that's one of the things that's really going to test your mettle as a grower. You know, because we constantly have the influxes in our weather. It can be high and low. And so you got to be able to adapt and overcome. And now with that being said, the next annual flower that I want to tell you about is, of course, one that I'm going to be super excited about growing in 2026. And it's a little bit of a sweet treat. And this flower is going to be our Alyssum Oriental Nights. Now, I got to tell you a fun story. When I first read the name of this flower, I actually mispronounced it. I called it an asylum. But, you know, the funny thing is with its little tiny purple flowers, asylum, you know, made me think of Batman, Joker, you know. So anyway, but the actual correct pronunciation for it is the Alyssum Oriental Nights. And I can't be more excited about growing this one because even though it is an annual, just like our marigolds, this is also yet another flower that's going to do dual duty in the garden. And first and foremost, because it's going to make for an excellent companion plant. I mean, one, because of its small, sweet-smelling flower. Of course, that floral scent is going to attract like your bees and your butterflies, and of course your other pollinators, just like your marigolds. But this is the best part. Its small stature means it acts great as a ground cover. So you don't have to worry about this one maybe outgrowing your tomato vines or your peppers. It'll actually stay down low to the ground. And now, the next reason why I'm fanatic about this flower is that, guess what? The flowers are edible. That's right. The flowers and the blooms, much just like your nasturtiums, are going to be edible. So it makes great for like garnishes on a salad and so forth. Just like I had to, as a gardener, adapt to the growing conditions out here in North Texas, this plant is adaptable as well. Because one, it can work great as a container plant, or it can be a direct sow, or even raised beds. It's versatile. Plus, when it comes to the sun, it prefers full sun, but guess what? It can actually even take partial shade. But now here's the best part. Being out here in North Texas, it's drought tolerant too. So when, you know, we start growing out here and we start getting in those really hot and dry summer winds coming through here, the Alyssum is completely fine with those conditions. And that's what makes it even a great plant if you're doing like some xeriscaping and you're doing like a rock garden. So I am eager to figure out how I'm going to be planting my Alyssum this spring. But you know what? That's a problem I don't mind having.
There's no way I could be talking about the things I'm excited to grow without mentioning my absolute favorite crop that I grow. No matter what, no matter where I am, I will always grow this, and that is the humble tomato. But this year I chose a new variety for myself, and that is the pineapple tomato. Now the reason I chose the pineapple tomato here is that, first of all, the color palette. You'll notice that a lot of the pics that I have this year are on that kind of orange peachy tone, and also the name pineapple to me implies that it'll be a little bit sweet, but still have some tang, which is what I'm looking for in a tomato. Not only that, but this is a 1 to 2 pound slicer that is dense and meaty, so much fun to eat, but it is still prolific. The fact that it is a large tomato that produces many caught my interest because I've grown large tomatoes before, but usually you get like a handful and it's not really worth the effort. So hopefully this lives up to the name. It's delicious, prolific, and I get a bunch of large, peachy fruits.
When I start my own flowers from seed, I really like to get the biggest bang for my buck. A flower that will give color from spring through fall. And one of the best plants for that are pansies. This Swiss Giants blend is going to fill my beds and fill my containers and give me color all season long. But to get that extra bang, I'm looking for plants that are edible, flowers that you can eat. And yes, you can eat pansies. These pansies are another great flower to start indoors early in the year because it's going to take months from the time you sow until the time you can get them in your garden. Now, a variety like this Swiss Giants blend is great because this is an heirloom variety. So once you get them planted in your garden, let the flowers set seed and let those seeds fall, and you can expect more flowers to appear in future years. This is also a plant that we treat as an annual, but it's perennial in zones 6 through 10. So you can just leave them in the ground and hopefully they'll come back the next year if your zone is warm enough. They also do offer a bit of a challenge when starting indoors months ahead of when you're putting them outside. These seeds do not like light. In fact, they need darkness to germinate. So sow the seeds and then cover your tray and give them a couple weeks before you start checking on them. Keep the soil nice and moist during the germination process. For once you see the plants, like everything else you grow, expose them to light to get the biggest, bushiest plants that you can.
And now the next plant that I'm super excited to be growing for the new spring season, it's going to be a bit of a classic because, hey, let's face it, not everything has to be new. And I'm one of those people that fully subscribe to the whole methodology of it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I'm going to go with a staple that I always grow out here in Dallas, and that's going to be both my purple coneflower and my white echinacea. And now here's the fun part as well. Of course, it's going to attract your pollinators, right? You know, you're going to get your butterflies and your bees and all of your beneficial insects. But here's the best part. It's also going to attract birds as well. You know, I am one that fully believes that when we are gardening, we are creating a biome, an ecosystem. And if I can attract more birds to come over and work in my garden for me, hey, I'm all about it. Because, you know, I fully subscribe to the fact that we want to work like a fox, not an ox, right? And now, hypothetically, if your soil conditions aren't exactly ideal, coneflower can totally be started indoors in containers. The only caveat to that is that you want to make sure that you do so about 10 to 12 weeks before your anticipated last frost date. Reason being is you want to be able to have the benefit of those blooms right at the beginning of spring. But it can totally be done.
Since I have my tiny little makeshift greenhouse fired up anyways, I'm going to start some cucumber seeds. Cucumbers are one of the most cold-sensitive crops out there, so it feels a little loopy to start cucumber seeds in the month of January. But if you do have something like a little greenhouse or even just a nice sunny windowsill inside, you can start your cucumbers in larger cell pack trays. You do just want to be really careful when transplanting. Cucumbers are something that is often recommended to direct seed. However, I'm going to break this little rule when I start them in the month of January. Cucumbers can be transplanted. You just have to be very careful when moving the plants not to disturb their roots too much. And we don't want them to overgrow their pot at all. Any cucurbits like cucumbers, pumpkins, squash, they are going to really lose steam if their roots go ahead and hit the sides of the pots they're growing in. So I'm just going to start these in trays indoors to give them a jump. Then I'm going to let them grow on in about 3 to 5 gallon pots in my little makeshift greenhouse. I'm also going to sow some seeds in the end of January in my raised bed garden. That might be a little risky. If we do get a random chance frost, they're probably not going to do so well, but I don't mind throwing a few seeds in, because if we don't get that frost, they're going to have a really nice jump start for spring.
Next crop I'm most excited about is right in front of you, and it looks kind of boring. It actually looks like a grass, and that's because it is a grass, but not any grass. It's wheatgrass. So this is my 2026 patch of wheatgrass. I'm going to be growing it for the grain, not for the grass, but you could actually just mow this down and blend it up and put it in your little smoothie if you want to in the mornings. But what I have here is something that I really like experimenting with. Now, is it practical to grow wheat at home? Certainly not. It's much cheaper to go buy flour at the store. Even organic flour would be cheaper than growing it, but it's more fun. It's absolutely more fun. Jacques and I have done this for a couple years, different varieties, different seasons of the year. This is a hard red winter wheat variety here. And we have a lot of fun processing the wheat, grinding it up, and making our sourdough breads or some more questionable recipes over on the Epic Homesteading channel. But if you do want to experiment with it and go big, like this 3 by 30 or 40 foot plot here, you're going to want to buy like a 5-pound bag of wheat and actually sprinkle it at about 20 to 30 seeds per square foot. If you want to try a smaller one or just grow wheatgrass, grab a packet like this one right here.
And now my next pick is a perennial powerhouse that has me pleasantly pleased. That's going to be my Gaillardia Goblin. And honestly, I gotta say that I'm super excited. One might even say so excited that I can barely hide it. And you know what? I think I like it. Don't worry, I know that I'm corny, but truly I am ecstatic about growing this flower. I mean, the fiery, everlasting blooms that comes from the Gaillardia Goblin. I mean, it's like a plant that's truly been poised to grow right here in my zone, and I'm here for it. And now when it comes to zones, we're talking about a plant that can grow anywhere from zones 3 through 10. So of course, it's going to do well here in North Texas, all the way down to South Texas as well. But what I really love about it is, one, the height that it gets. We're talking about a plant that can grow 12 to 18 inches in height, so you're going to get some length out of her. Then you get all these beautiful red and gold blooms that come from it as well. And now when we're talking about those blooms, we're talking about a plant that's going to flower from summer all the way to your first frost. So, I mean, you're going to get a plethora of petals out there. I mean, that's probably part of the reason why it's nicknamed the blanket flower, because you just get so many flowers out there. All right, so look, I'm gonna try to tone down my excitement, but I'm sorry, I wear my emotions on my face, and I'm truly ecstatic about growing this one because, I mean, it's also heat and drought tolerant, which is gonna make it ideal for growing next to either my echinaceas, as well as my rosemaries, my Turk's cap, any of my native plants. It's going to do well out here. So I am really excited. And then plus, I can't wait to see those blooms. And so now when it comes to our growing conditions, we want to make sure to give it full sun, excellent drainage, and then let's go not so heavy-handed on your fertilizers and your watering. Because remember, this is a heat and drought tolerant plant, so it doesn't want too much of the fertilizers and water, as this honestly could shorten the lifespan of the plant. And then after that, you set it, forget it, and watch this beast of a botanical beauty do its thing.
Another double action plant that I'm looking forward to growing this year is the nasturtium. This is the peach melba nasturtium. This is a great plant to grow, particularly if you have a greenhouse. I highly recommend growing nasturtiums either just inside or just outside the door of your greenhouse. Nasturtiums tend to attract aphids, so this can be a trap crop. The aphids are going to attack the nasturtiums before they find the rest of your plants in the greenhouse. And the double bang aspect of it, you can eat every part of the nasturtium. So when I was at the school garden working with students, I loved having the nasturtiums as you walk into the greenhouse. They flower throughout the season, and to see a kid pick a flower and start eating it as they're walking through the greenhouse or the garden is just fantastic. So if you've got kids, let them know about this flower. It's a little peppery. The leaves are peppery too, but it's fun to just pick and eat. If you don't have a greenhouse, it's okay. Consider growing nasturtiums next to a fence or up a trellis. Now, this peach melba is a shorter variety, but some varieties of nasturtiums can climb pretty tall. This is not a plant that enjoys transplanting. So you want to put the seeds in place where you want the plant to grow, and they're going to require scarification. That means soaking the seeds and nicking the seed coating is really going to be beneficial when you grow the plants. While I'm not growing these plants early in the year, I am preparing the beds. I'm getting the areas ready where these seeds are going to go. So that as soon as the season starts warming up, I'm going to start growing nasturtiums.
Every year I like to grow something new, unique, and different for me and my garden, and that tends to be in the world of flowers. I've grown a lot of the vegetables out there, but there are so many stunning, beautiful flowers, I just haven't got around to all of them. Of course, I love the classics like the nasturtiums or the cosmos, the calendulas. I will always continue to grow those, but I want to expand into some new stuff. Now, around me here, I also have scarlet sage, a wallflower, and all sorts of other goodies, but this year I will be planting the Fata Morgana, which is a scabiosa or pincushion flower. Now, the cool thing about this one is that it has this really wonderful peachy kind of undertone, a little bit of white, a little bit of pink, a little bit of orange, and that's the stuff that I really love. But not only that, but it's a pollinator-friendly flower. I always make sure that it is something with pollen. I don't like the pollenless varieties because I want all of the insects to be able to make use of those flowers. And this one is also a great border flower. Does not get that big, which means that I could still pack my garden full of vegetables and put a little bit of beauty here and there.
Let's face it, it's cold out in Dallas right now. And I know my Texans fully understand what I'm talking about. But you know what warms me right on up to my core? Focusing on what I'm gonna be growing for 2026. And with that being said, my full focus is on functioning flowers. It's all about flower power. And now, you know, when I first started gardening, at first when I was growing flowers, it was all about the function, right? Like, oh, I'm growing these flowers for the pollinators. But I'm gonna be completely frank with you. I favor flowers. And one of my favorite flowers to grow is one that it kind of hits you twofold. That's the French marigold. Because one of my favorite things in the entire world to grow are strawberries. And with strawberries, when you companion plant them with French marigolds, you get a classic companionship. Because one, let's look at the aesthetics, right? You have the green and the white that comes from your strawberry plant. Whites, of course, being their flowers. But then you contrast that with the red and golds of the marigolds. It creates a symphony for the eyes. But you know what? I love it though, because it creates a deferred gratification. And, you know, it gives us something to look forward to in the summer, warmer months. But, you know, also because of the color shift that it goes through, it brings me back to my childhood. It makes me think of the cars that I used to play with when I was a kid. You know, you put them in hot water and they change color. So, yeah, a little bit of nostalgia there. But also, I love the fact that the marigold has a function too. But additionally, the flower itself is going to attract all kinds of beneficial insects. Like, of course, your ladybugs, lacewings, parasitic wasps, and of course your bees. But the plant itself serves even another purpose. It actually helps drive off root knot nematodes, which strawberries are highly susceptible to. So, I mean, it really is a fabulously functioning flower. Now out here in Dallas, our last projected frost date is usually around mid to the end of March. So I'm going to probably start these marigolds about the middle of January. So I want a good 6 weeks before that last projected frost date so that I can grow quite the plethora of marigolds so I can spread them all throughout my garden. Now, when it comes to marigolds, I got a Texas size tip for you. A little goes a long way with them. Make sure that you are pruning them. Make sure you don't overcrowd them, because marigolds, when they have the right growing conditions, they can really take off. And what'll end up happening, you know, especially with this variety of marigolds, we're looking at a plant that can get anywhere between 2 to 3 feet tall, and it'll end up casting a shadow over your strawberries. So make sure you prune them regularly. So yeah, I'm super excited about the metamorph marigold. I can't wait to see it change colors.
Okay, this next pick is amazing. So much so that a couple years back, over in the test garden over there, Jacques and I grew what we called the Amazing Maize Maze. which if you haven't figured it out, of course, my pick is going to be corn or maize. Now, why do I have two yellow sweet corns in front of me? You can grow all sorts of different types of corn. There's flint corn, dent corn, popcorn, sweet corn. Well, sweet corn really is the most accessible for the home gardener. It's the one that you want to toss in the microwave, put a little butter on, bake it, do all sorts of funny things with it. That's the corn that we like to eat as sort of our dinner plate vegetable that I grew up with, at least. And so for me, that's the one I really want to focus on this year. True Gold and Butter Gold are the varieties I'm going to recommend to you. Why? Because they are yellow sweet corn, classic. But the cool thing about this is that you can get two different varieties, but you can plant them at the same time. Most of the time with corn, you run into a pollination problem because first of all, it can be difficult to pollinate corn. That's why you want to plant it in blocks of at least 4 feet by 4 feet. Maybe put about 12 to 16 corn stalks in that block. The wind will pollinate it. The problem is if you have two varieties right next to one another and they start dropping pollen at the same time, they'll cross-pollinate. And because we eat the seeds of the corn plant, that season will be a different corn. So you don't really want that to happen. Why these are cool when planted together is that Butter Gold is harvested 2 weeks earlier than True Gold, meaning you could plant them at the exact same time and their pollination windows will not overlap, meaning you will not cross-pollinate them. So whenever you're thinking about growing corn, whether it's these two varieties or some other ones that excite you, you really want to make sure that you're staggering the planting or planting them in different areas so the pollination does not overlap. And if you do want to see how we've grown corn from seed to harvest following every single step, you can check this video out right here. We hope you have a fantastic 2026 growing season. It's just getting started and it's going to be epic. Good luck in the garden and keep on growing.